Hi everyone, I'm here to give you some notes before the weekend. I'm doing this a little bit early because I've been having lots of check-in meetings, y'all, and I have lots of really cool stuff to share. And you see I have a document with some of my notes, but one of the notes I forgot to start with is I wanted to give some examples of students' essays. I've worked with them and they're coming into the check-in meetings, y'all, and they're saying, oh, this assignment's impossible, it's so hard. And I'm like, yes, I'm glad it's so hard because you learn so much from challenging assignments. But I'm starting to notice a little bit of a pattern that you all might be trying to make the assignment harder than it needs to be. So I want to just cover a couple of points really quickly, and then I want to share two examples of how you can make it easier, right? Okay, so one of the things that people keep asking me about is, do you really mean 2 pages of new content? And I really do mean 2 pages of new content because, I've read your other file. I know what it has in there, and so I will be looking for, how many words are on 2 pages, y'all, with 12-point font? Probably like 250 words. I'm looking for about 500 new words. That's not a lot of new content, so I am looking for that amount. There's no page requirement for this assignment, so you can turn in something much shorter than the original file, but you'll have to be willing to cut. So revision is really hard, y'all. It doesn't just mean adding more. Sometimes it means cutting out what doesn't fit anymore, especially with the new content, especially with the new audience, especially with the new purpose. So don't make this harder for yourself. Don't make this essay, longer to write, harder to write. Really consider, this is coming up in my campus classes too, really consider cutting, not trying to keep everything and making everything work because it might not work. All right, so some examples of students. I met with Ariel. She's one of the online students, and she's revising a piece of writing that was on the personal side already about her history. And when she added some new history in, she wasn't sure it was fitting in, and she was having a really hard time connecting all the ideas together, and even expressed to me that she thought the essay didn't make any sense anymore because she was adding all this new content with some of the old. So first thing I want to remind you of is cutting stuff from the old might make organizing the new piece easier. You don't have to fit in everything from the old file with the 2 pages of new content. The other thing that Ariel and I talked about was solving this problem with the feeling like it was kind of a jumbled and lots of random thoughts. We talked about her genre and talked about changing the overall genre of the piece of writing, the primary genre for the piece of writing, to a journal. And I suggested using dates before some of the paragraphs to organize the content of the history that she's sharing. And so some organizational mechanism like that, like subtitles. You have a title at the top of your essay, and you could have subtitles before the sections and try to organize the information that way, and instead of trying to have all these transitions and all these sentences that make everything connect. I hope you all see what I'm talking about. That organizational change was the fix for Ariel, and she was like, yes, that will work. So I wanted to share that with you all because, again, making this assignment harder is not your goal. Meeting the requirements of the assignment is your goal, but trying to find a solution that makes the writing feel easier and breezier. And sorry, I'm using a sound pattern there. And, just trying to make it an easier piece to write, because revision by itself is hard, but coming up with the solution. Another solution I want to share. I was meeting with Jenny, and Jenny is revising a paper from a psychology class where Jenny had to kind of give a summary of some psychological theory, but also had to apply it to her life. And she said she was having a really hard time adding in new material and meeting all the requirements. So we came up with a solution that she write a letter to her son. She has a son and a young son, and she thought, and I thought, and this was an idea I provided for her, that really focusing in on a specific audience and writing a letter would help Ginny to tell the application of the theory to her life, but also help her son to understand her as his mother, and this solved the problem for her. I feel like this example is a little bit different, and it's focusing on the audience requirement of the assignment, y'all, that you have to choose a new audience. And it might be easier to go with a very, very specific audience instead of a really broad audience or trying to meet many different people's needs in your writing. And I've talked to a couple of folks who, have like 5 people they're trying to write to, and I'm like, no, try to write to just like one person or just 2 of those people, because you're making your writing a lot more difficult by trying to meet the expectations of many, many different audience members. So I want to just share those couple of examples, y'all, because I know this assignment might be new to some of you. You're so used to professors saying, this is what I expect and here's what I want the essay to look like. You have to figure out what the essay looks like. That's what's making this assignment so hard. I have these requirements about things that have to happen in the sentences and how many pages of new content and how you express exigence and what genres you're using and all these expectations. But ultimately, you have to know what the essay looks like. And you have to be able to see it. And we've been talking about conceptualizing what an essay looks like now for 2 essays, because we did that with rhetorical analysis through the template, and now you have to come up with like your own new vision of what this essay looks like. So that's why this is really challenging, and I'm so glad you're experiencing it. And a quick reminder that when you submit it on Sunday, do this Sunday by the 27th at the end of the day, a reminder that you get another opportunity to revise it. So try to, I know this is easier to say than to do, but try not to stress over it too much. I know you all want to do well with the writing and earn a high grade and all those things, but if you let some of those roadblocks get in your way of writing it, it will become harder to write. So a quick reminder, y'all, before we move on to the next topic, that I have 2 appointments in the morning, 2 check-in appointments available tomorrow morning, and then I have 2 in the afternoon. So if you think you want to talk with me before the weekend, you might want to grab those 2 spots. And I had to block out 2 of the spots in the morning because I have a meeting now. But there's still 4 spots available, and I've talked to so many people this week. All right, let's review asyncidon and polysyncidon. Asyncidon is a sentence that incorporates a list, and the list is separated by commas, and there are no coordinating conjunctions, no conjunctions, no words. So here's an example. I like to write essays, comma, poems, comma, infographics, comma, reflections, comma, and recipe. Oh, I messed up. No and, comma, recipes. So I would list out all those words with no ands, only commas. And a lot of people are saying, Beth, are you crazy? If I try to turn this into another class, I'll get marked an error because there's no and, because all the lists have and. That's the grammatical rule, you all. We're learning about rhetorical style in this class. So I'm asking you to practice some different rhetorical styles. And now you know what it's called, to have a list of words separated by commas only, no words. And I'm sorry I misspoke there. Ugh, what a horrible thing. But I'm not going to start my video over for that. No ands. Polysyncidon is the opposite. You're going to list out the same things. I'm going to list out the same things, without commas and only ands. So I like to write essays and poems and recipes and commentaries and letters, period, right? And so the ands take the place of the commas, no punctuation marks. Again, another way to have rhetorical style. What are the effects of these sentences? With asyncidon, it speeds up the list because there's no conjunction in between the commas. It speeds up the list. It reads fast. So maybe have a sentence that has a lot of things listed that you want your reader to read quickly so that it doesn't bog them down because the information is so much. And with polysyncidon, it's the opposite. You're slowing it down. It's a slower sentence. So think about a sentence where you could list out information where you really want readers to linger over that information, really like soak it in, enjoy it, learn it, but really slowing it down. So asyncidon is commas only in a list, speeds it up. Polysyncidon with ands slows it down. No commas, right? All right, so that's reviewed because I've had a few people say, I don't know what these are. Either because you don't remember from the presentation from a few weeks ago, or whatever thing is happening that you don't remember, so that's reviewed. I've had a few folks asking questions about using images. So I want to show you all a website if you're going to be using images for news sources. A couple of things you need to do. And before I show you this, I want to remind you that no matter what you're writing, we're still practicing MLA documentation. So even though you're saying, Beth, I'm writing a letter, MLA doesn't work in a letter. I know, but I still want you to focus on citing the sources appropriately so that you're through MLA documentation so that you are practicing that skill no matter what you're writing, okay? So I know it wouldn't usually show up in a letter, but I'm asking you to put it in the letter so we can practice that skill, okay? So just that's like the most unnatural part of this assignment is that I'm asking you to use MLA. If you're going to put an image in an essay or in a letter or in something else or in your journal, like you're writing some journal entries, you're going to put an image in, here's how I need you to do it, please. Kind of three parts. The first is right before you show the image, right before you show the photo, whatever it happens to be, in the paragraph before the image shows up in the essay, you need to mention it. And so you see here in this Purdue OWL page that this is the in-text reference that you're going to, in the paragraph. In-text means in the paragraph that you're writing before the image shows up. The instructions aren't written by me, so, kind of bad instructions here, but I'm pointing out to you, you need to have a sentence that talks about the image so that the reader has a connection to the image. The image doesn't just show up and then we're all sitting there looking at it going, I wonder what this is supposed to mean. Oh, well, moving on, right? Like there has to be a sentence in there that talks about the image. So that's what has to be where you see on the website it says in-text reference. It has to be in a paragraph before the image shows up. Then you put the image, so in this case it's, a picture of some music. And then you're going to have a caption underneath. In Microsoft Word, you go to References and you insert a caption. And it puts a figure number, and then here are your caption options. You can either just share what the source is, and then you're going to repeat that on the Works Cited page. And I find that caption to be really useless, so you can use it if you'd like, but it's not very useful, I don't think, especially since that information is already on the Works Cited page. But I'm going to scroll up to another section to show you what your options are for the captions, right here. So you can share the source. Same example is being shared up here. This is the better one, y'all, where you put a note and you explain what the image shows, what it represents, what it means in the context of your essay. You write a sentence. That's not the same sentence as the one in the paragraph, but you describe the image or talk about what the image connects with or something. I think the note is a better caption than the source because you're already putting the source information on the Works Cited page. It adds more to the writing, your overall writing focus and everything else to have a note. So I wanted to just talk about that for a second because I know a few of you are using images and the captions are required. And then you will also, you'll look here on my list, you will also add the image to your Works Cited page. Can that be one of your two sources? Sure. Absolutely. You're doing a lot of work to make that image or that picture or that whatever you're putting in, in your file to make it fit in with all that writing, with the caption and the in-text reference in the paragraph before the image shows up. So definitely use that as one of your two sources. That's awesome. I had some in-text citations in my Zoom because I had been sharing some stuff with people in class, and then my Zoom decided that I had been in there too long without activity, so it closed and deleted my examples. So just a reminder, you all, about in-text citations and your options. Any of these are correct as long as the in-text citations also match up with how you're integrating the source information into your essay writing. So in-text citations for web sources. Let's review. Last name of the author. The title of the essay. Notice, y'all, that I have the quotation marks. It's the title of the essay on the website. Notice where my periods are. They're always after, not before. You also can do website title, and it should be in italics. Okay, and I'm going to fix that because I just italicized my parenthesis, and I don't want that. And then the other option is that you can do paragraph numbers. I'm just going to choose a random number. Paragraph numbers on websites are usually not numbered, so you would have to manually count them if you wanted to use that. Any of these are correct. But remember, you're also choosing your in-text citation based on how you set up the information. So if I have a quote that says, according to Beth Wheeler, comma, and then I quote Beth Wheeler, I would not put Wheeler in the in-text citation. I would probably move down to title of the essay, right? Or paragraph number, and then I don't have to deal with any of this last name, title of the essay stuff that I might say in my introduction when I say, according to Beth Wheeler, who wrote the essay called Revision is Awesome, right? And then you can't use Beth Wheeler or Revision is Awesome in the in-text citation because I've named both of them. So then you would have to use the website title. I hope y'all are following what I'm saying. This is kind of just MLA review that you've covered for many, many years, I'm sure. Paragraph number might be the simplest because then you can just put the paragraph number, but then you have to count the paragraphs in the essay. All right, moving on. Next thing. Yes, you all have to add one trope, and you have to add one sound pattern. And so what I did was I listed out the ones that we've covered in class. We didn't go over very many tropes at all. And we went over several more sound patterns. So let's start with the sound pattern, y'all, because I have an example to show you here in this video. At the end of that Christoph essay that we read several weeks ago on fleeing to the mountains, one of the last sentences in his essay has some sound patterns in it. There's actually two. And I remember when I first read this essay, and this sentence really made me pause because of the sounds. So these are considered schemes, y'all. I actually presented it to you as sound patterns to kind of break it out from the schemes. But I'm going to share a source with you in a few minutes that does categorize these as a kind of scheme, because they are. It's sentence level focus. But check this out, what Christoph wrote. Fell to the mountains. So there's an S. Deserts. And babbling brooks. So we have more S's, lots of S's. So that's sibilance, y'all. And then the babbling brooks also stood out to me. So that is some alliteration. It's also consonants, but either one is the correct way of labeling it. And then we have to get in touch with wild spaces, more S's. So this sentence has some sound pattern in it, doesn't it? And so it's really that simple. And gosh, I want to point out that the thing that happens, I think, when you focus on sound patterns is that you're really focusing on vocabulary. You're really focusing on word choice, diction, and it really makes your sentences come to life because they're just so much more engaging to the reader to read those lines. You only have to use one sentence that has a sound pattern in it. So maybe in the ending, maybe, y'all, I'm sort of thinking about the strategic use of these schemes, sound patterns, and tropes is that you don't randomly place them. You try to find a place in your writing where you're trying to emphasize something. And obviously, Christoph is emphasizing how important getting to nature is, going back to the mountains is, by making us, what does this do? It makes me slow down when I start reading this, because I start to notice how beautiful the language is, and it's really emphasizing the point. So that's a sound pattern. I don't have a sound pattern example for tropes, y'all. It's on this other page. But what I am going to share with you in the email that I send out with this video is this new website. I found it this week. I've been sharing it with my campus students. And then I want you to see that this particular professor at Stanford University is saying all of these things are schemes. And I agree. I just happen to break out the sound patterns into a separate category. So agreed already that they're schemes, but these are often categorized by different professors in different ways just so we can kind of group them in ways that we remember. There's an awesome list of tropes at the bottom, y'all, and if you want to check some of these out, I know you've heard some of these when you've done some literature analysis, especially like synecdoche and personification and hyperbole. There's lots of great stuff on here that you might think about using for your tropes. Since when we talked about tropes, we went over only like 3 examples. And here are a lot more, and the definition is here. And then you could even do a search on Google with the name of, so say you're interested in paralepsis and you want to see an example of one. I would do Google search paralepsis example, and then you might get some examples to see how it turns up in some text. So that's what I'm going to refer you to if you're really struggling with the trope thing, because some of you might not want to use metaphor or simile, or some of you might not want to use connotation. And what was the other one we covered? I'm just forgetting off the top of my head, but I have it there. Or an allusion. You know, you all could do an allusion to something, the name of something, the name of a book, the name of a place. An allusion works as a trope as well. So I'll send that website link to you all as well, so you can check out some other ideas for tropes. And I think that's all I have. And this is a little bit of a long video, y'all, but I'm trying to help many of you get caught up with some things that are probably questions. And all of this content is in thanks to everyone who's done a check-in meeting with me this week and has said, oh my gosh, I don't know this. Oh my gosh, what about this? And wanted you all to have that information too. Have a great weekend. Happy revising. I know revising doesn't feel super comfortable right now, but you're learning a lot, whether you realize it or not. And I so look forward to getting your next essay in the assignment Dropbox on Sunday by the end of the day. Thanks, y'all. Talk to you later.